A lot of you guys know that we're a Porsche specialty shop. We also do Lamborghini, Ferrari, a couple other select makes, but we do a lot of these 997, 996, 991s, 992 turbo cars. And as they age, they start having issues with cooling fittings pushing out. So what I want to talk about is service contracts that a lot of these dealers will sell you, that when you're buying a car and they're going to tell you that it covers everything. Well, I wanted to tell you guys, stop wasting your money on these service contracts. They do not work. Only if you have a very minor failure. For example, we have this car here. It's got a cooling fitting problem on this console. This is going to be very similar as the 997. So for example, these fittings right here are welded. Well, on Porsches, they're glued. And what happens is when they push out, they cause a coolant catastrophic failure. So here's another one right there that's been welded. We don't weld them, we pin them, because we actually have to re-weld these because they were leaking. But the service contracts will never cover that. The only thing they will cover is a water pump and the thermostat most of the time. So these guys will pay $5,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $12,000 for a service contract that's useless. So for example, here's one we did with the same exact problem. Cooling fittings pulling out. We replaced the components with the same time upgraded his exhaust system. We did a suspension. Here's a couple of the components that we're going to show you guys. These turbo lines will actually burst. They're old. Most of the time, 99% of the time, they're never covered. And if you do get a service contract and they do tell you, oh, it covers all this stuff and there's no problems and they're great, don't waste your time. Most of the time, these contracts and these service contracts that we deal with are a waste of time. And we normally do not work on cars that customers have these service contracts because we end up writing these estimates for them and they get denied because they only cover easy components such as water pump, air pump, things really that are maintenance items that don't fail. Some of them don't even cover radiators. Your typical hoses don't get covered. Everything that a turbo car typically has that fails never gets covered. So if you own one of these babies, do not waste your time. Just save up some money, keep the money that you were going to buy the service contract for, and don't buy it because you end up buying it, you end up wasting your money, and then you're not going to be able to get it back. So this one is actually a customer's vehicle that just got denied. It has a pretty severe coolant leak, so let's see if we can open it up and I'll show you guys. Originally came in here for a completely different issue, but we noticed that there was coolant dripping out, and when we checked, the center coolant fitting pipe, which is in that corner that typically fails, has failed, and his service contract has denied the claim. They will not pay for engine removal and installation. So now he's got no option but to either come out of pocket. He's gonna probably try to get his money back for it, but that's what we end up dealing with. So because we see this a ton, I wanted to make this video and kind of go over it so you guys are not wasting your time getting this done. Couple of the components these service contracts cover are your cylinder heads, which they never fail. Like, why would your cylinder heads fail on a turbo car? They just don't fail. You know, they don't cover any of the components that would typically fail. Like, let's say a timing chain. It's always the components that never fail are part of the service contract. So just read very, very carefully when you are signing up for this. You know, when you're doing these repairs, all these pieces, intake, plenums, hoses, all this has to be removed just to get to the lower fittings. They're not paying for it. So as you can see, there's a lot of components here. This one we've gone through and we've replaced a lot of the hoses, made it look really pretty, because this one was really messed up. It actually came from another shop that didn't do a good job. So for instance, your oil tank cracks, well, engine out. Is that covered under service contract? Absolutely not, because that's not a typical component that you see in other cars. They're very generic. I think when they write these service contracts, they will write and have somebody that's knowledgeable with mechanical components to tell them what actually doesn't fail on the cars, and that's what they typically cover. So for instance, if your turbo pump was to fail, which is right here, that's not going to be covered. That'll cause a lot of issues and you'll end up removing this and resealing it, or there's a seal issue. None of those are going to be covered. If your housing fails, which is this is a second housing here for the coolant, that's not going to ever get covered. So pretty much like components that you would typically have issues with is a no-go. Hope this video helps you guys a little bit so you don't end up spending money and not get the proper coverage that you're thinking you're getting. So yep, this is a engine that we do just about every week. We work on quite a few of these turbo cars. We got more in the back, so non-stop they keep coming. Hope this video helps. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.